Now, the Life Esidimeni inquest has been adjourned following concerns that have been raised about the legal representation of potentially implicated people. Officials have been given 2 days to sort out their affairs and secure legal representation. The inquest aims to see whether or not there was criminal liability on the part of those involved in the deaths of 144 mental health patients at various NGOs. Joined now by Section 27's Head of Health Rights, Sasha Stevenson. Sasha, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View. Of course, you are, as Section 27, a very important, interested party in this inquest. Just to remind our viewers, why is Section 27 interested in this and involved?
Well, thank you. We are representing 44 bereaved families in the Life Esidimeni inquest, having represented bereaved families as well as other role players in the arbitration process that happened a few years ago, and indeed in the lead up to the disaster, where various interested parties were trying to prevent it unsuccessfully, as we know now. And so in this process, we're representing bereaved families to assist the court in bringing evidence and conducting cross-examination that will help the court to identify what the causes of death were, and importantly, as you say, whether there should be any criminal liability for people involved. Yeah,
inquest is a very serious business. We're seeing this today with Judge Tefo adjourning it for 2 days to allow persons who might be implicated to seek legal counsel or get legal support or legal representation and come back on Friday. How do you, as Section 27, see this development today?
Well, I think firstly it's important to recognize that people who are potentially implicated need to be legally represented in these proceedings. Of course, we know that an inquest doesn't automatically result in someone going to jail. There still needs to be a prosecution. But of course, important evidence is going to come out that may well implicate various people. And so it's important that anyone who might be implicated is legally represented. What happened is that certain people, including, for example, Dr. Manamela, who was the former head of mental health in the province, weren't themselves legally represented, and the legal team assisting the government in this process had agreed to represent Dr. Manamela as well as some current employees and officials of the Department of Health. The difficulty, of course, is that there may well be a conflict between what these different parties say, between the versions that they give. And that means that it would be difficult for them to be represented by the same legal team. And so Judge Tefo has adjourned the proceedings to allow everyone who may be implicated further time to ensure that they are appropriately legally represented and there's somebody able to protect their interests in these processes.
And you, as Section 27, you welcome it, that there's another adjournment? You hope there won't be any further delays? I mean, we've waited 5 years to get to this inquest.
Absolutely. It's important that the process does proceed as speedily as possible. You're right. We've waited a very long time. That being said, we wouldn't want anything to get in the way of its finalization. And there's always a risk if people aren't legally represented that the issue arises later and then witnesses have to be recalled in order for them to be cross-examined by new legal teams. And so it's prudent for Judge Tefo to have called for this short adjournment to give everyone the opportunity to be legally represented so that the process can continue, and we hope continue at pace, to finally bring some certainty about what happened and hopefully some closure to our clients among the other bereaved families who still don't know what happened and who still haven't seen criminal and other forms of liability for the deaths of their loved ones.
Do you think there will be such criminal liabilities coming out of this inquest?
I beg your pardon, I didn't hear your question.
Do you think there could be such criminal liabilities coming out of this inquest?
Absolutely. There's a lot of evidence that suggests that many people knew what was happening, that they were warned about the potential consequences and the likely consequences, and that in any event they went ahead. We know, for example, that warnings were issued to Dr. Manamela herself, to Dr. Bani Selabano, the former head of department of the Department of Health, and to the former MEC, Ms. Mahlangu, among other people within the department. And so those warnings are really important in suggesting liability and showing that there was indeed a link between the decisions they took, the implementation thereof, and the deaths of the people who eventually died. And so we hope that what Judge Tefo will find at the end of this inquest process is that there is a prima facie case against these and other people who were involved in this that will allow the prosecution to go on and prosecute those involved.
Families, you represent 44 families. Are you in a position to share with our viewers how are the families feeling at this stage now that this inquest has started? Yes, it's taking too long, but what's the general sentiment that the families you represent as Section 27 about the inquest?
It's always been really important to our clients, the bereaved families, that there be criminal liability for what happened. The arbitration was an important process in itself. It brought out some of the truth. It elicited apologies from various officials and from the government. It also resulted in a plan to prevent this kind of thing happening again, and of course to compensation. But really what we haven't seen is individual accountability. We haven't seen that in the form of professional accountability. The doctors and nurses who were referred to their professional bodies are still able to practice as doctors and nurses should they wish to do so. And we haven't seen criminal accountability, and that's really important to our clients. And so while it's very difficult, and it will continue to be difficult as the evidence comes out, which is really hurtful and really awful evidence, very difficult for our clients to have to hear all of that again, having been through the arbitration process. But it's also important for people to see some kind of criminal accountability. And so that's why our clients are watching and enthusiastic for this process to get started, get finished, and for us to see criminal prosecutions.
Yeah, hard as it may be to open old wounds, but this process is necessary for that closure that they need. Thank you very much, Sasha Stevenson, Head of Health Rights at Section 27. They are one of the parties involved in the inquest. They represent 44 families who lost their loved ones during this Life Esidimeni tragedy, now adjourned until Friday so that persons who may be implicated can then seek and find and secure legal representation. Hopefully this delay will not go beyond Friday.